Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Weather Center Nazario. Thank you for joining me today. It is November 27th, Monday. Happy Monday. Welcome back from the holiday weekend. I know I'd mentioned on a previous live stream or two ago that I wasn't going to do these recurring updates, but you know what? You can't keep an old dog out of the game, so we're going to go ahead and blast through a very brief update because we do have some severe weather on the horizon, and I wanted to take you through exactly what it is that I'm seeing today. If you are new to the channel, I know our population or our traffic is a little bit slower this time of year, but please like and share this video and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and make sure your notifications are turned on as more of these El Nino winter storms begin to bustle through not only the south but also the mid-Atlantic and the northeastern United States. First things first, we're starting out on our half-disc water vapor shot. This is one of my favorite loops. I've mentioned that in the past just because it highlights pretty much everything that we are looking at currently. We'll start down over the Caribbean because we still have quite a bit of dry air in place that's really allowing for a lot of our activity to stay very, very quiet. We have a little bit of thunderstorm activity pushing ashore of the Costa Rica, Panama area. No cause for concern or alarm there. This is probably just daytime diurnal trends that we are seeing. Thunderstorms firing during max heating of the afternoon, and they should taper off as we get into the overnight hours of tonight. Same thing can be said with some residual activity moving across the Lesser Antilles, moving towards Trinidad, Tobago, parts of Venezuela as well, with the very, very extreme tail end appendage of a frontal system that's moving across the central and eastern parts of the Atlantic. This is going to be the extreme southwestern curve of that, and that's exactly what's helping to induce just a little bit of thunderstorm activity, very spotty showers, isolated storms that are likely to persist throughout the day today and then begin to taper off as we go into the overnight hours of tonight as well. Once we lose that sun effect, daytime heating can start to taper off. We should see those begin to dissipate. El Nino is firing on all cylinders. You can see our subtropical jet is attracting a lot of attention and bringing in tremendous amounts of moisture from the eastern Pacific across the south and southeast, helping to keep our rain chances elevated for us along the Gulf Coast and in Florida for that matter. We've had quite a bit of rain over the last 24 hours, especially as you get into the areas previously affected by Hurricane Idalia and the northern portions of the peninsula between Tallahassee and Jacksonville. A little bit of it trying to rain out in Daytona Beach as well, which I'm a little concerned about. I'll take you through what I'm seeing on the models. I do have a big car show in the Daytona Beach area this Saturday, and I'm a little nervous because our Euro and our GFS are highlighting our next lowrider Gulf of Mexico system coming through around then, and so I'm a little weary that we might see some rainfall just in time for show day. We also have a very, very robust system moving through the northeast, beginning to affect more so Quebec and the eastern Canadian territories, also supported by both our polar front and our subtropical jet. You can see quite a bit of difluent flow right in through here generally where I'm drawing with my marker, and you can see that in the water vapor shot, how a lot of our shower and thunderstorm and moisture activity for that matter is sort of fanning out as it gets over top of Bermuda, the extreme western and northern portions of the Atlantic Ocean, and further to the north where our center of circulation is actually with this low pressure system through central portions of Quebec. This is likely going to be the story for the next several weeks, with El Nino now firing at 110% for that matter. Our jet stream is likely to continue to pour up and out of the eastern Pacific across the southeast, with our polar front jet troughing across the U.S. and helping to further intensify all these systems as they begin to form up not only for the south and southeast, but transitioning up the mid-Atlantic and northeast coastlines where we have very, very strong nor'easters forecast, especially as we get into the first full week of December. Let me show you now. So we're actually going to be using a little bit more of pivotal weather as we go through the next winter and spring season, and maybe even into hurricane season next year for that matter, because they had a pretty solid Black Friday sale going on with their subscription, bringing this down to a whopping $7.49 a month for their premium account on their website, where we can access a ton of weather model data, and it saves me a little bit of money on the back end because my weather model subscription was just a hair more expensive than that. But anyways, guys, we're going to look at the jet level for now. As you take this through time, we're already getting into the closing portions of November. This is moving into November 30th, this upcoming Thursday. You can see a clear delineation between our jets. That south jet, the subtropical jet, still alive and very active for the south, moving across Baja California, Mexico, and then the rest of the southeast United States for that matter. Our polar front jet getting ready to get very, very strong, moving across the same general area, with a bit of our upper latitude or the Arctic jet beginning to work its way across central Canada, running almost parallel to the United States and Canadian border, the Great Lakes, and helping to further fuel what snowfall and heavy rainfall we've been seeing in the northeast and especially eastern Canada. If you continue through the loop, you can see some very, very strong polar front jet energy making its way towards the Pacific Northwest coastline, parts of British Columbia, and that's really what's going to help intensify our upper air pattern across the United States. You can see the polar front jet troughing across much of western CONUS to its entirety all the way through the Mexican border for that matter, interacting with our subtropical jet, intensifying the winds across the Midwest, Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. And that's exactly, if you look at the timestamp, this is December 2nd. As you take this even further through time, you can see intensification of that long wave trough with the winds beginning to increase as they move across the southern plains, the mid-Atlantic states, parts of the Appalachian Mountains, and pretty much the eastern half of the United States for that matter. This is where I think our next potential severe weather outbreak for the Midwest, as well as the Northeast, is likely to fan out. You can see even stronger jet energy moving into the mid-Atlantic and northeastern region of the U.S. about the December 4th timeframe and into the 5th. And I'll show you the more finite parameters as we get into the next slide. Here's our 12Z GFS. We're going to start with the GFS, and you'll notice this trend as we go throughout much of the winter and the springtime for that matter. The GFS doesn't do very good with its tropical development, especially before a system forms up out there in the Atlantic or the Pacific or wherever you want to use this as your forecast model. But over North America particularly, especially in terms of our synoptic scale features, our baroclinic lows, our surface high pressures, track and fronts, and so on, it actually does pretty good. So don't be surprised if we kind of ebb and flow with the GFS and the Euro for the most part as we go through these next couple of seasons together. So starting out, you can see that very, very strong nor'easter still kind of dissipating and weakening as it continues to snow and rain out for that matter over Quebec, parts of James Bay, the Hudson Bay, and the Northeast United States. You track this through, and once again, we have a good period of time where it looks like we're not going to have any type of severe weather across the lower 48 and most of Canada for that matter. But as we move forward into the very early periphery of December, notice that there is a cutoff low beginning to make its way into the western coastline of California, helping to elevate your rain chances, some elevated winds with that as well, maybe some higher terrain snowfall for the mountainous features up there in the Bay Area. And as you continue through time, this system is expected to transition across the southern Rockies, parts of northern Mexico for that matter, and reemerge over the higher terrain features into parts of Texas, the panhandle of Oklahoma, where we have yet another feature coming down out of Canada. Blink and you'll miss it, but there is a low feature right in through here. And if you look at the thickness lines, we have another frontal system kind of making its way over the northern tier states, parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, as it works towards the lower Great Lakes. And both of these systems simultaneously are going to help to draw in lots of maritime tropical moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. You can see all this return flow already highlighted by the green precipitation marks down over Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, and so on. And if you continue this further in time, you can see now we are into December 1st, and look at all this widespread rainfall, a very textbook setup for some strong thunderstorms down there in the very same area where we just had 5 to 6 different tornado reports and lots of severe weather activity during last week before Thanksgiving rolled in. If you continue this through time, look at how we see rapid cyclogenesis of this system, and then it finally begins to deepen down off the coast of Manhattan. But as this is occurring, look at how we have yet another system rolling through the Four Corners area. So it's not necessarily that first one that we really have to pay close attention to in our mid-Atlantic and northeastern region, but watch this as that next system emerges out of the Rocky Mountains, deepens down, interacts with our next subtropical system over the southeast that's going to bring up our rain chances. Notice the timestamp, guys, that Saturday into Sunday car show event. Look at how the rain chances are going up for Florida, so I'm going to be watching that very closely. As you go further in time, look at all of that severe weather and that tight pressure gradient that's expected to take shape over the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, dropping down into the 980, sub-980 millibar, all the way down to what would look almost like a Category 3 hurricane approaching Category 4 if this was a tropical kind of system. Look at that very, very tight pressure gradient. So, folks, this is going to be a very, very strong nor'easter system. You can also see there are areas highlighted for the threat of severe freezing rain, which is very dangerous up there for our northeastern folks, into parts of Nova Scotia, New Brunswick as well, into eastern Canada. And as you take this further in time, the GFS is anticipating it is not going to stop there. It is at the extreme eastern periphery of our chart, but now it is located at a 959 millibar center of circulation. So some textbook bombogenesis is forecast with this system. You go to our 12Z Euro, and we're going to go all the way towards the back end of this loop, and you can see the same thing is indicated on this model as well. A very, very robust nor'easter system is expected to form up, deepening down to 967 millibars. So despite the GFS looking like the bullish one here, the European model is 100% on board with the exact same threats, and we are likely to see some very severe winds with this because of that tight pressure gradient, and alongside the pressure gradient winds, because we have so much low-level flow, we're going to have very, very dense cold air advection coming out of eastern and central Canada. So that's also going to help intensify the winds and the wintry style precip we see down at ground level where we can feel those effects. So this is going to be a very, very intense winter system for not only the mid-Atlantic, but especially the Northeast and parts of the Great Lakes, where we could see at least 3 to 4 feet possibly of lake effect snowfall for you guys out there in the Midwest Midwest and in the northeastern United States. Here's a quick closer look at our 10-to-1 ratio of snowfall accumulation, and as you get through that point in time, right about there, you can see that the GFS is anticipating anywhere between 8 to 10 inches of snow in some areas of Maine, into the eastern parts of Quebec, into the eastern Canadian provinces as well, just off the chart. And the same thing is echoed when you look at our National Weather Service blend of models. As you take this through time, you can already see that system transitioning across the four corners, the central and southern Rockies, and as it begins to emerge and deepen down, if you look closely in the northeast, notice how all of a sudden our level of snow accumulation begins to go up right around that same time frame. Between December 4th all the way through to December 6th is when the heaviest snowfall is likely to occur for parts of the northeast and especially eastern Canada, where you can see estimates upwards of maybe 2 to 3 feet of snow and even higher in some very isolated instances as the system rolls through. Last but not least, we can't forget about our freezing rain, because this is very, very dangerous for any kind of ongoing flights in that area, any kind of last-minute holiday travel, or I should say even early holiday travel for our folks getting ready for the Christmas holiday. I know that sounds a little premature, but whew, with as fast as time has been going, I wouldn't be surprised if people are already moving around, taking care of their holiday shopping before the Christmas excitement really settles in as we get into the middle parts of December. As we slowly go through this loop, you can see this is our total freezing rain quantitative precipitation forecast, which is basically the total freezing rain event, or the amount of freezing rain we could see down at ground level. And look at how much of that is expected to take place. This is going to affect air travel big time, and you definitely do not want to be out driving in this, because it's going to completely cause your brakes to fail altogether, and you will not have any control over your vehicle, especially if you need to make a short notice stop or take any kind of curves, or if you're driving on the freeway area. So you definitely do not want to be out and about with this, and I do anticipate National Weather Service for your area in the Northeast is likely to highlight a lot of severe winter weather warnings as this event begins to unfold. So quite a bit of freezing rain is anticipated with this event. You could see upwards of maybe half an inch in some locations, 3/4 of an inch in some. Right about here into parts of New York, the greater New York State area, we have areas approaching the 3/4 inch effect. Same thing down with, I believe that's Massachusetts as well. We have about half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain expected. So all in all, this is going to be a severe weather event. We want to make sure we keep a close eye on how this unfolds as we get into the early parts of December. With that being said, folks, we are going to wrap up the video. I hope to see you tonight for our next segment of our post-tropics topics, where we will dive a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of what it is that's expected to take place, not only with this Northeast event, but kind of get a look at what the rest of the United States and the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and Canada, for that matter, could be seeing as we go over the next couple of weeks. And we can't forget about you guys tuning in down in Central America as well, because I am noticing we could see a return of that onshore flow, bringing you guys an increase in isolated thunderstorm coverage and maybe a little bit of heavier rainfall as we also transition into that December month. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your Monday afternoon to join me for this, and I really look forward to conversing with you as we get into our next post-tropics segment tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you there, and I hope you had a wonderful rest of your holiday weekend despite the absence here in the Weather Center. But we are back full-time, and we're really looking forward to seeing exactly what this winter time has in store for all of us. We'll see you guys again very soon. Until next time, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.